Hello, this is Micah Seth, IGN intern, filling in for Chris Roper of IGN PlayStation, who's away at Tokyo Game Show right now. I'm going to be doing the video review for Okami. While many have touted Okami as a sort of Zelda killer, it doesn't quite match the pedigree of that classic franchise. Okami is a stellar game, but it falls short in a few key areas. One of Okami's main strengths is the surprisingly good story, which is loosely based on Japanese mythology. The backstory of Okami deals with the mythical defeat of the eight-headed dragon Orochi at the hands of the legendary warrior Nagi and a wolf named Shiranu. The game starts as Orochi is freed from his prisons by an unnamed ne'er-do-well, subsequently spreading a blight across the peaceful land of Nippon. As Amaterasu, the sun goddess in her wolf aspect, you must travel across Nippon, restoring beauty and life to the world as you go. As has been mentioned countless times before, Okami has some of the most incredible visuals ever seen in a video game. The world of Nippon is not just cel-shaded, but actually designed to look like a watercolor painting. It is something that must be truly seen in person to understand. Backgrounds ebb and flow with an almost unnatural fluidity as characters shuffle about the world on their daily tasks. While technically the game falters sometimes, the art design itself is unmatched in quality. Amaterasu is aided on her journey by an insect-sized artist named Isun. Isun speaks for Amaterasu, adding a nice dynamic to the game. Unfortunately, Isun also serves as a guide of sorts, instructing Amaterasu on how to overcome various obstacles. What results is a whole lot of hand-holding, making the puzzles in the game rarely challenging. Despite the game basically escorting the player through each and every puzzle, it is oftentimes difficult to figure out what must be done next. Every so often, the player will enter a new area and be forced into several side quests all at once, each of which must be tackled in a particular order. The game does a bad job of pointing out what to do first in these instances, and the result is that players can easily get lost with no clue where to go next. Okami has a wide variety of minigames which range from digging up turnips in a farmer's garden to fishing for legendary sea creatures. The fishing is handled remarkably well. While it is not as deep as its Zelda counterpart, it is extremely fun and intuitive in its own right. Even more widespread than minigames, however, are the game's side quests. There are side quests spread across the entirety of Nippon, each of which can be tackled at any time. These side quests range from feeding wandering animals to cleansing cursed stretches of land. The sheer overabundance of these side quests may be daunting at first, but ultimately becomes one of the most endearing aspects of the game as you scour the world for favors to complete and blights to cure. One of the most distinctive aspects of Okami is the celestial brush. Because she is a sun goddess, Amaterasu can wield a brush of the gods, which has the ability to actually impact the physical world. Through the course of the game, Amaterasu acquires a whole slew of celestial brush abilities, including the ability to turn night into day, slash at objects, create bombs, and direct spouts of water. Each of these brush abilities comes into play periodically over the course of the game and helps make the game feel unique among adventure titles. The only drawback to the celestial brush system is that ultimately each of the abilities requires the player to either draw a line or a circle. More variety in this regard would have really helped to flesh out this unique gameplay dynamic. The combat in the game is the main thing that keeps Okami from being a timeless classic. Not only are the game's battles far too easy, but they sequester the player to a small combat arena whenever they are initiated. This becomes extremely annoying over the course of the game, as players will often find themselves sucked into an enemy encounter when all they wanted to do was travel across an area undisturbed. Personally, I avoided combat as much as possible throughout the game because it really was not nearly as fun as I would have hoped. The boss battles, on the other hand, are truly incredible. Each of the game's bosses is huge, some towering several stories above Amaterasu. Not only are the bosses massive, but they are truly gorgeous. They are all brought to life fluidly and seem really frightening. In classic video game fashion, each boss has a hidden weakness. These weak points can only be exploited through the use of the celestial brush techniques. This makes each encounter feel unique despite ultimately being somewhat derivative. Unfortunately, while the game's bosses are incredible, they are too few and far between. Okami's dungeons, while artistically designed, are fairly boring and lackluster. With maybe one notable exception, the game's dungeons can each be defeated relatively quickly with very little puzzle solving. Most of the dungeon exploration consists of defeating an enemy in order to obtain a key, and then using that key to progress to the next room, something that grows tiresome rather quickly. Ultimately, Okami is an exceptional game. It is not only unique from a visual perspective, but from a game design perspective. It features a huge quest and an open-ended world filled to the brim with things to see and do. It is an adventure unlike any other, and one that comes highly recommended. It is no Zelda killer, but it never sets out to be. Instead, it becomes something uniquely its own, a game filled to the brim with artistry and life. Chris Roper gave the game a 9.1. For the full written review, check out IGN.com.